to put in the. Okay, welcome everyone. Today is our Asian philosophies meetup, and on the series, the third round on the origin of schools. And we based on the book, A Short History of Chinese Philosophy. Even it's a third chapter, but I think that's a also kind of independent because it gives you an overview of all schools except Buddhism in the Chinese history. Okay, so next week, Kwang is going to continue talking about Qin Dynasty, which is the first empire in China. And then we are going to take 2 weeks off for the spring break. So mark on this one, 23rd and 30th. Then we come back on April 6th. It's changed a little bit. Teresa. Okay, she is a blogger, also a writer, and then she is going to present what she read about Lu Xun and then her own writing about Lu Xun. So that will be a different section. Mark, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. So when this is a kind of clarification. When you say all schools except for Buddhism. I think you're talking about all major schools as classified by Feng Youlan, because I don't believe in this chapter that he mentions Yangzhou or the agriculturalists or a few other schools that I've read about and heard of that I can't remember off the top of my head. So first he classifies 6 and then he adds 4 more. But there are other, I think, being particularly fond of Yangzhou, but I'm also interested in the agriculturalists. There are other prominent schools that are known about today that he hasn't mentioned yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so we talk about 6 major schools or 10 major schools. And then traditionally, people will call this period of time called the 100 schools. But I can guarantee you there's nobody ever count to 100. But you are right, Mark. There's many schools, there's no way to cover, and a lot of time because the document has lost and then we don't know. And then, but you are right, 6 major schools and some people count as 10 major schools. I think that's the way we look at. Okay. So just a quick background about the book we are reading. Okay, this book is called A Short History of Chinese Philosophy. Is written by Feng Youlan in 1947 when he taught in University of Pennsylvania. And then I do consider this one is not a textbook. Of course, I do compare this one with Bertrand Russell's History of Western Philosophy. Basics, this Feng Youlan and Bertrand Russell, they go through the history, and the purpose is to talk about their own view about philosophy or life. Okay, so you can always find out, it's not correct. He's biased, same as Bertrand Russell and same as Feng Youlan. So, but the good part of this, and some people here have been go with me, another meetup, go through all the Bertrand Russell's chapter about history of Western philosophy. We will know, a lot of time it's not that correct, but it's more fun to read this kind of text than read the dry textbook. So I'm going to quickly go all the chapter. Okay. So this book have 28 chapters. So that's why I said probably we will spend the rest of this year and to go through all chapters. And then because I on and off spend about 2 years and pick up some of the subject we talk based on this book. So this one is kind of my second run. And then today we talk about the origin of schools, chapter 3. And the book I post on the meetup and you are welcome to buy the book from Amazon, or they have a free copy in the archive.org. You are welcome to read the PDF version on that. And then I think it's easy to read. And some of the translation or the name, Chinese name, is outdated. So it's a little bit difficult, but I don't think that will cause major problem, but we can, if you have a question, now you can come here to ask. So today I already talked about we are doing with the origin of the school. And when I say school, that's a Chinese school. So I need to go to the history on this chart again, which Huang used it for last week. And I believe he will use it for next week. Because when we talk about the origin of school, just like Mark talked about the only 6 schools, okay? So basics, all this philosophy happened is during this period of time. So around 500 BC, I think during the Confucius, around Confucius time, about 500 BC to about 200, about Qin dynasty. So last time when Huang talked about Chinese history, he's covering from this period of time. If you see the cursor, from the Western Zhou all the way to the end of the warring state, okay? And then the philosophy, okay, we are going to cover basics originate during this time, around a little bit earlier than Confucius to the end of the warring state, okay? The year is not precise, but roughly around this time. And during this time, there's a lot of things happen. That's why in the historical book, talking about they have 100 schools, but I believe that's just rhetorical description, and that's never have anybody count to 100. I think it's not even to 30, but that means a lot of philosophy, a lot of thought happening. And just I mentioned at the beginning, basics, it covers all the thought except Buddhism, because Buddhism, even it already happened during this time in India, but it never had a major impact to China until to the about the 6th, 7th, 8th century in the Tang dynasty. That's a later time. So we are not going to cover Buddhism today, but we will cover later, okay, this year. So that's the spring and the basically, we have a 2 period time. One is spring and autumn. Another period is so-called the warring state. We see this map before. We don't have to go to the detail about this map, but basics we would like to do is give you an idea what's going on during the spring and the autumn. Okay, that's about 700 to 500 BCE. Confucius living during this time. And the rest of Confucius and the Lao Tzu, which is the master of the Taoist philosopher, living during this time. You will see that's a feudalism system. And then the feudalism system is the mainstay called, the head is Zhou dynasty, is someplace here, okay? It's Zhou dynasty, that's the center. You can see basically in the center. So there's many small states, some large, some small. Okay, so the idea is I'm the king and I have 10 sons and each one get 1 state. And each son has more sons, then get more state. So the number of states increase, okay? And the basic assumption is we have unlimited land, unlimited resources. So you can continue to grow and as many states as you want. But as you can imagine, during this time, right, the land is not totally unlimited. And some land are better than other lands. So different states, they're supposed to be family, brother, cousins. They start to fight. So during that time, start have the war coming. Okay, so we don't know how many states here, but for sure it's over 100 states. But some people said 300-400, but there's no correct number. And so that's during this time. And we call this time spring and autumn. So you will see there's many states here. But what happening is after 5th century to the 200 BCE, you can see the map. The number of states become much less, and technically we can say 7 states. Okay, so you can imagine during this change from 200 states to 7 states, it's not going to be peacefully merged together. It means a lot of bloodshed, okay, a lot of war, and many things happen. That's why from this one. And we are not going to the detail about this one. And I think Kwang will go through this one next week, because you can see this state, okay, the one brown, okay, it's called Qin. This tiny state before was here on the corner, and during on the year of 221 BCE, eventually conquered all the states and kind of unite the entire China. So that's why we call it the first empire in China. So that will be the topic in the next week. And the reason I talk about and I show this map is give you an idea what kind of background, okay, and during the philosophy has been created, why they create, what's the purpose, because that's the historical background. James, if you have a question or a brief comment, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just was wondering, is there a popular explanation of the name spring and autumn period? I can think maybe it means waxing and waning, that the number of states, that the state was waxing and waning. But is there if I was asking any teacher, what would they say? Why is it spring and autumn?
You mean why is it called spring and autumn?
Yeah.
Okay, because Confucius wrote a book called Spring and Autumn. Okay, that's my simple answer. Okay, we can go there later and in the much detail. As I think last year Kwang talked about this. Okay, for that's a whole session story. So, okay, so before I go to, because I am a little bit quickly go through. Okay, so I will have enough time to go into the philosophy itself, because the purpose is talking about philosophy, not history. And history is Kwang's job. He's going to explain history much better than I. Okay. So I'm going to introduce 2 books, okay, which I don't recommend you to read, but that's important in today's section. Okay. So at the beginning, we talk about that many schools, and each school we have a comment, we have a different opinion. And myself, Jason, all has my own opinion. And I believe people here, if you spend a lot of time read the Chinese text, have your own opinion. And even people just first time read it will have your opinion. So today I'm going to present three books opinion. First, of course, is Feng Youlan. Okay, he's the author of this one. So he writes his comment on each school, kind of introduction, and then you can say bias or one-sided. Okay, so that's fine. Second one is, if you read the text, you probably know the person called Sima Tan. Okay, so Sima Tan is Sima Qian's father. So who is Sima Qian? Okay, Sima Qian wrote a very important book called 史记. Okay, 史记 is 史记, the proper English translation is the records of the great historian. Okay, this one is the first Chinese history. This book is written on about 100 BCE, okay, 100 BCE, that's after Qin dynasty, okay, about 100 BCE, okay, I think it's about 100, yeah, about 100 BCE, and the history cover from the beginning, which we call the Yellow Emperor, okay, let's go this one. 史记, the history cover from this time, 2000 BCE, which we can say Yellow Empire, which is the founding, the start. You can call it the mythology. That time all the way to Qin and the early Han dynasty. Okay, so basics, it covers 200, 500 years of history. Okay, so it's a humongous book. And then Sima Qian complete the book, and his father start to write this book. So Feng Youlan talk about, and Mark also talk about this, is basics. We call sixth school. It's not really sixth school, because Sima Tan, who is Sima Qian's father, decide to call them. This one is Taoism. This one is Confucianism. This one is Mohism. This one is legalism. Okay, because he called them. So in another way, when Mencius, which is a Confucianism scholar, is teaching his philosophy, he doesn't know he belongs to Confucianism. Okay, when Zhuangzi, another Taoism philosopher, writing his book, talking, arguing about his philosophy, he doesn't know he belonged to the Taoism. Okay, because later time, Sima Tan, okay, when he writes the history book, he has a chapter called Discourse of the Sixth School. Okay, so during this time, he kind of categorized, okay, they're the six major school, and then he just put comment on that. So we are going to read Sima Tan's comment on this one. So we will read Feng Youlan's comment, and Sima Tan's comment is not included in the book, but I think it is fair to show what Sima Tan's comment, since it's very important and he's the creator of this one. So that's the book, 史记, okay. The third opinion, we call it Book of Han, okay. That's the Han Shu, okay. So this one is another history, which is written, I think it's about 200 years after 史记, okay, which is the great record of the record of the great historian by Sima Qian and Sima Tan. So this book covers the history, okay. Okay, 史记cover from early time all the way to early Han, okay. And then Book of Han cover from this one about 200 BCE to about the 1st century, which is the Western Han, this short period of time. Okay, so this one is another historical book, which is very important. Okay, but the reason we mention this one is this book have 100 volumes about annals, chronological tables, biography. There's many, many things inside. But interesting is they include 10 treaties. The 10 treaties is kind of like about the non-political information, including law, food, geography, sacrificial and literature, music, all this kind of cultural information. And the interest part is there's one section called Treaty of Literatures. Okay, and this one is Feng Youlan going to quote, okay, about 6th school or 10th school. Okay, so this book, because during that time in the 1st century, China already collect a lot of books, and then Treaty of Literature basically is you can see as a library index card. Okay, so they give you an index. So okay, they have this kind of book, they have this kind of book. So they categorize. They have the one thing you see is so-called philosophy here, right? On this one, you will see they include philosophy. Okay, so in Chinese called Zi. Okay, you will see a lot of philosopher we are reading. We call Lao Tzu. We can see Mencius called Mozi. Okay, Zhuangzi. Okay, Han Fei Zi. Okay, so they all end with Zi, which means teacher, Mr. And in Confucius Analect, we translate as the master. But another way to look at this word, 子, is see them as philosophy or philosopher. So based on the Book of Han Treaty of Literature, they collect 10, okay, 10 kind of philosophies. So that's why, some people said they have the 10 school, some people say they have the 6 school. But out of these 10, 6 are the same as the record of a great historian by Sima Tan. So they have the 6 plus 4. And the other 4 is not that important and probably have less influence on that. So we just will quickly go over that. We're not going to very detailed. But the 6th school is the major one. We have to spend more time on that. So I think I already done the beginning and before we go to the 6th school. So I stop here for a few minutes. If you have a question and you have a comment, and then please raise your hand, because we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 school to cover. Again, not very detailed, but I just want to, after we finish this meeting and you got the idea, at least you can recite the 6 school and roughly know, what they are talking about. Mark, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I have a question about the Taoism classification, particularly the relationship between the Zhuangzi and the Tao Te Ching. So I've read somewhere that I think Sima Tian, it's suspected he had kind of he was partisan against Confucianism. And I read somewhere that part of the reason for associating the Tao Te Ching with the Zhuangzi was they were both oppositional to Confucianism, or at least could be construed that way. But other than that, the association isn't really that strong. So my question is, does the Zhuangzi actually mention the Tao Te Ching or Lao Tzu, or is it like, how do you view the relationship?
Okay, we will save this one because we will have a 1 full chapter to talk about Zhuangzi, and the quick answer is Zhuangzi talk about Lao Tzu. Okay, and then Han Fei Zi, okay, the legalism, have the 2 chapter comment about Lao Tzu. So it's very hard to say, are they in the same school, they agree or disagree? The only way you can do is when you read it and they see, haha, Zhuangzi is talking about, make fun of Confucius. I think if you are here and last year, when we read in the the inner chapter of Zhuangzi, that's another place Zhuangzi make fun of Confucius, and then he respect Lao Tzu. In this way, we can say, oh, he's Taoism. And again, later on I will show you. In Sima Tan's comment, at least my theory, he strongly prefer Taoism over Confucianism. Huang, please.
I just want to come back briefly to the notion of spring and autumn, because the spring and autumn is a general word that is used by the different principalities at the time to name their historical chronicles. Okay, what is special in the case of the spring and autumn of the state of Lu, which is the state where Confucius was born, is that was this historical annals of that principality between year 722 BCE to year 481 BCE. And that was the basic or primary material from which Confucius used it to put some philosophical and epistemological commands. But the word by itself was from the word of officials of the state of Lu for the chronicles of that state of Lu between 722 and 481. And why 481? For a very simple reason. Confucius died 2 years later in 479 BCE. So it was not possible for him to make commands, philosophical or otherwise, on stuff that happened after his death. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Kwang. Yeah. So it's no more hand, then I will continue. Okay. So so basically I will stop on each school. Okay, so of course you can imagine Confucianism and Taoism will be a little bit longer. Okay, so because they are more important and which are more influential till today. So we cover more on this one. But basically, I try to make them even about these six schools. And the 4 minor school, I think we just know the name and quickly know what they are doing. Probably not much to discuss. Then we go to the summary. So I think we are doing fine about the time. Thank you, everyone. And then I know it's to some people it's a lot. To some people may see, oh, we should go more on each one. So anyway, so first school, okay, we call the Yin Yang school. So I'm going to read. Okay, so by some suggestion last time, I put the page number here. So if you want to make a note on that, and then that's the page number. Okay, and in general, if I put the blue text, that means I copy from Feng Youlan's text. Okay, so the first is the Yin Yang Jia. Okay, so or the Jia means school or Yin Yang school, which is one of cosmologists. It derives its name from the yin and the yang, which in Chinese thought are regarded as two major principles of Chinese cosmology. Yin being the female principle and the yang the male principle. The combination and the interaction of which is believed by the Chinese to result in all universal phenomena. Okay, that's Feng Youlan's writing. And of course, the describes yin and the yang as male and the female is very rough. Okay, but I don't know what would be the best way to describe. Okay. So, or sun and the moon. Okay, that's another way to think about it. Okay, or your palm and your back. Okay, so that's another way to think about it. But we will have the opportunity to discuss this one a little bit more. And then, of course, 5 element is I don't know when does Chinese start have a thought about the 5 element. I show this picture many times. Fire, earth, metal, water, and wood, and the cycle is they can produce each other and they also kill each other. So we will have the opportunity to talk about detail about this. Okay, so again, this one I know some of among us are favorite on that, and some are not that favorite on this one. But Book of Change, we can consider Book of Change is the oldest Chinese philosophical text in this way. Okay, so make it simple. Okay, the solid line we call yang, and which is male. The broken line we call it yin, which is female. So if you put 6 together, we call it a hexagram, or in Chinese called guà. So there's a 2. Every line could be yin or yang. So there's a 2 opportunity. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's 64. So total will have 64 guà, or you call it a 64 hexagram. So we lay out the chart here, and on each one we give a name, and when you got the name, they have the meaning, they tell you something happened. Usually you can say divine, or you want to say metaphysical, cosmology, but the Confucius and the Confucian scholars, disciples, start to put some moral teaching on each one, not only on each of these 64 guà, also put on the line, and the one of these 6, each line have their own meaning. So you can see 64 times 6. Okay, so that's the total amount of the text you can read about if you are interested. Okay, so what does that mean? And we will save for the later. So all this one, we can roughly call them yin-yang school. So here I'm going to present two comments. We just read Feng Youlan's comment, and then let's read records of the great historians. Okay, the comment from Sima Tan. Okay, he said, "I personally study." This one is not in the textbook. Okay, "I personally study the technique of yin yang. Many people worry its omen, which make people fearful and unfree. But we should not ignore the teaching of principle of the nature cycle of 4 seasons." That's Sima Tan's comment about this school. Okay, so Han Su, which is book of Han, Treaty of Literature. Those of the Yin Yang school had their origin in the official astronomers, because traditionally Chinese government have the office of astronomers, astrology. They all mix together. They respectfully follow luminous heaven and the successive symbols of the sun and the moon, the star and the constellation, and the division of times and the season. Herein lies the strong point. So on page 33. Second part of the comment, Feng Youlan didn't write, so I make my own translation on the second part, because book of treatise of literature usually go this way. That's the good part, the strong part. Then they have some negative comment on that. And for some reason, Feng Youlan skip the negative part. Okay, so, but I decide to add them. They will sound, well, at least you can see two sides will help you understand better. So but he said, but the strict followers are limited by the prohibitions, focus on small details, abandon the human affairs, and ask help from ghost and the spirit. That's Treaty of Literature's comment. Seems common, like sometimes they go to superstitious. So that's the Yin Yang school. And I have Steve have a hands up, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if I heard you correctly or understood you correctly. So you said that the I Ching is the oldest, and I think you said that the later schools sort of took these symbols and kind of overlaid their own definitions on them. Okay, and
You
so
are right.
okay, and I can, because I know more about Taoism, Confucianism, when I can guess the sorts of things they may have attributed. I know less about what the quote original intents behind these. What kinds of things did these 64 symbols sort of represent in the original?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this one is, I think, again, everyone will have a different opinion. I don't see that a consensus. Okay, so, but my understanding is originally they put the 64 together. They try to describe the nature phenomena, and then when you go a little bit deeper, then you start to put some metaphysics, some routine here. Okay, and later on, Confucius scholars try to put some moral teaching on that. Taoism will be more focused. I think that will be related later on in the religious Taos, and then focus more on the cosmology as it happened. So I don't know what's the original, but most likely it's for the definition, right? Before you go to the war, you try to do something, try to pick something. There could be one of the 64 and tell you, that's a good idea to go to the war. But and should we, my daughter should get married. Okay, so doing this one, yeah, you should marry. Okay, so
it's sort of fortune telling.
Yeah, you can
guide.
say, yeah. But again, that's just my opinion, and many people have. And the one thing I'd like to mention is you call I Jing, or some people, it's proper pronunciation should be Yi Jing, right? Jing means classical. Yi has 3 meanings. Okay, first means simple. Second means change. Third means unchanged. So why change and unchanged put together? Because Since you know the pattern of changing, then you know the unchanging pattern. Okay, so that's the idea of I Ching. So, Kwang, I know you know a lot of this one, and then you probably will prepare a session about this. So,
Yeah, I would like to say that the safest understanding of the I Ching, and I very grateful to Jason to stress that I means at the same time change and on change. Okay, that's one of the beauty of the Chinese language, that time and timelessness can be described by the same word. And let's not forget that the word I is made by the sun and the symbol for rain. Okay, so you have the sun and the rain. So the sun and the rain, you see that there's a change, but at the same time, it is also things that don't change. Okay, because you will always have sun or rain. Okay, so that is absolutely awesome for expressing at the same time change and unchange. So the safest basic understanding of the I Ching from prehistorical time is that the plain line is for the sunny day, and the broken line is for when it's not sunny, and it's for the progression of the year. Okay, so how first the day and after the year, and it was for describing simple astronomical phenomena at the very beginning. After that, you have a lot of philosophical consideration that I don't want to go into now because I will let Jason to keep on. I just want to say that at the beginning, it was simple description of meteor and astronomical phenomena. That's all.
yeah, this part, Kwang and I agree, but later part, we can argue for like 3 days. So, okay, so I hope we'll be fine. So let's move to the second school, which is most important school is Confucianism. Okay, so I think if you read the book, Feng Youlan mentioned about the name, right? So Confucianism exists before Confucius, right? Just like Christian exists before Jesus was born. Okay, so it's in Chinese society, nobody called Confucian. It's basically called 儒家. Okay, that's 儒. and then the spelling in the textbook, the Feng Youlan book, is spelled as Ju. Okay, that's the old way to spell it, and I think the proper is Ru. Okay, the Ru was that's a Confucius. Okay, so but we just follow the convention. We call it Confucianism, but just keep in mind. Okay. So first on page 30 and 31, Feng Youlan talking about the Confucianism. Okay, the second school is the 儒家. Okay, the 儒 I changed the spelling to Ru, or school of literators. Okay, or the literati. Okay, this school is known in Western literature as the Confucianist school, but the word 儒 literally means literators or scholar. Right? Thus, the Western title is somewhat misleading because it misses the implication of the follower of this school were scholars as well as thinkers. They, above all others, were the teachers of the ancient classics and thus the inheritor of ancient cultural legacy. Confucius, to be sure, is the leading figure of this school and may rightly be considered as its founder. Nevertheless, the term 儒 not only denote Confucian or Confucianist, but has a wider implication. So basics, 儒 should be the proper way to name it. But well, we just call it Confucianism because if you call 儒, then you have to spend another 25 minutes to explain why you don't call this school Confucianism. So let's read the from the 史记 record of the grand historian by Sima Tan. See how he read this one. He said the Confucianists study broadly but often miss the main point or essence. they work hard but achieve hardly, because the worldly affairs usually are not as they expected. However, their teaching of rituals, okay, Li, or you want to call it the customs of parent, children, and husband, wife, should not be altered. It means, they are eternal moral law. So that's a Sima Tan's comment about Confucianism. So for those who don't know, okay, it's just this the important people in Confucian schools, and then we will go the detail on each of him. For example, next section, chapter 4, okay, Feng Youlan will have the whole section talk about Confucius, this person, right? He was born at this time, sometimes named as Kongqiu, or in this text, sometimes called Zhongni. Zhongni is his name. And if you were here last time when Huang was here talking about the Zhou tradition, Zhong, okay, this word Zhong, okay, means he's the second one, okay, his second son, okay. So that's why his name called Zhongni, okay, and sometimes called Kongzi. I do see some writing in the modern days. The Western American writers start to, instead of call him Confucius, start to call him Kongzi. Okay, so sometimes you may not surprise, see in the newspaper, people start to call Kongzi. And the most important book, and probably the most important book in the Chinese tradition, is Analects. Okay, they have the 20 books, about 10,000 character, Chinese character, and most of them start with 子曰, which is master said. And then I think we spent over years, right? And the 20 books, we already went through 15 books, and Amang and I doing the translation for the 15 books, and we have the 5 books we saved for later this year. Okay, every Tuesday evening we have a meetup, and right now we are not doing this. Second person is Mencius. Okay, Mencius is I think Feng Youlan covered in the chapter 7, and he's during the warring state on the much later time, probably 100 years after his death, if Confucius' death. And so usually we call his great disciple, but remember, he never see Confucius. Okay, he was born 100 years after the death of Confucius. So in general, we can see he is the 4th generation in the Confucian schools, because Confucius, then Zhang or Zhuangzi is his youngest disciple. After the death of Confucius, he kind of like become important. And one more thing is he lived very long. So as a philosopher, if you live a long time, you become influential. Okay, so in general. So then he became the teacher of Zi, who is the grandson of Confucius. Confucius' son died early. Okay, that's why Confucius only had one grandson, and this grandson is a student of Confucius' student. And then he is the teacher of Mencius. So Mencius, okay, become the second important. Sometimes we call the second sage, because the first sage go to Confucius. And then the book also very important at the 7th chapter. And the way we organize is 7 chapter in English translation, usually traditionally go with first chapter and A and B, okay, or upper and lower. And so total is 14 and about 35,000 words. Okay, so this one. Another one, in my opinion, also is a very great, okay, very important Confucian scholar, but traditionally in Chinese tradition, probably don't mention him too much, okay, because he's opposite of Mencius. We will talk about this one in chapter 13. Okay, Feng Youlan will have a whole section talk about Xun Zi. Okay, Xun Zi is later than Mencius, so he's 60 years younger than Mencius. So he criticized Mencius, but Mencius don't have opportunity to criticize him. So important thing is his writing is different, not like Confucius always start with the master say. Also, unlike Mencius have a lot of argue. He tried to put a lot of reason, debate, okay, why he's doing this, but also in the dialect form. Xun Zi is writing short essays, 32 essays. And I find out his essays very logical, and I like his essays. And then, but the difference between Mencius and the Xun Zi, even both of them are Confucian scholars. Mencius said human nature is good, but Xun Zi said human nature is bad, okay, because well, it's bad, so you need to learn. We need to education. That's the purpose. But since this idea, two of his students, Li Si and Han Fei Zi, which we will cover later, become a famous legalism scholar. So that's the people in Confucius, and we will spend a lot of time talking about these three people. Important text, since the beginning, we talk about the Confucians. They are not only philosophers, most important, they are scholar of ancient texts. So we talk about ancient texts before Confucius' time, right? Before Confucius, they already have a lot of texts. So 6, or sometimes we call 5 classics. So the Book of Odes, Shi Jing, or poetry, the Book of Document, that's a lot of ritual about this, about the historical document. Book of Change, that's we talk about the Yin Yang school, Yi Jing, okay, and the Book of Rites, Book of Music. This one is lost. That's why sometimes we call 5 classics, not 4 classics. And Spring and Autumn, okay, again, back to the question, right? Why we call that period of time Spring and Autumn? Because Spring and Autumn is written or commented by Confucius. That's the official historical account for the state of Lu. Confucius organized it and comment on that. Of course, you can imagine Confucius' comment is moral, about moral. Okay, so, and the ritual. Okay, so that's the text they are studying. 4 books come with later time because usually after Neo-Confucius movement. So they pick up 2 important things, Confucius Analects, Book of Mencius, and the Great Learning and the Doctrine of the Mean, right? So these 2 are from the Book of Li Ji, okay, from Book of Rites. Okay, that's 2 chapters being picked up, become 4 books. So these 4 books plus 5 classics become the important text for the later Confucius scholar. Okay, so I'd like to draw this chart. Okay, so you can see how does we call it the genealogy. Okay, so Confucius as a founder, right? He has a Mencius we cover in the chapter 7, talk about human nature is good. Xun Zi we cover in chapter 13, talk about human nature is bad. That's just rough idea. And he has a student, okay, Han Fei Zi become the legalism, and we will cover in chapter 14. And the Mencius all the way through, okay, 1500 years, okay, we can say that's the later time, okay, long time after that. There's a movement called Neo-Confucianism, okay, movement, basics. We're going to continue. So we are not going to cover today, but basics, that give you a chart about how these scholars, okay, Confucianism related to each other. A few texts I like to cover here. Book of Han, Treaty of Literature. We talk about the comment from Shi Ji, right? Shi Ji, right? Talk about Confucius study broadly, but often miss the essence. They work hard, but achieve hardly. That's Sima Tan's comment. Let's see, 200 years later, okay, the Treaty of Literature, when they comment on Confucius, how do they comment on that one? I think this one is Book of Han. Oh, it's on the page 32, 33, if you want to find your text. Okay, that's Feng Youlan. I just copy Feng Youlan's translation. Okay. The members of the Ru school has their origin in the Minister of Education. Okay. The school delighted in the study of Liu Jing, or 6 classics, but that's what I meant, 6 class, or sometimes we call 5 classics, because one is lost. They paid attention to matters concerning human-heartedness, which is we call 人 in my translation. Sometimes we translate as benevolence. And he talk about concerning 人 and 义. Sometimes we translate as righteousness. But in general, we can say 人 and 义 is moral teaching of Confucius. So another way to look at it, at least in my point of view, I would say Confucians are about the moral political philosophy. Okay, because and they regard Yao and Sun. Okay, that's okay. Let me show the picture here. You can see how old are Yao and Sun. So Confucius at this time, Yao Sun is during this time. Okay, we get roughly during this time is the Yellow Emperor. After Yellow Emperor, I don't know how many years, but basics they have around this time. Okay, that's the Yao Sun's time. You can say 3,500 years ago. Okay, that which is 3,000 years, 200 years before Confucius. So they all praise this one as an ancient sage. Okay, so that's okay. They regard Yao and Sun, okay, and ancient sage as the ancestor of their school. Qin Wen and Qin Wu, okay, are the brilliant example. Okay, Qin Wen and Wu is about the emperor in early Zhou dynasty who were 500 years before Confucius' time. Okay, so you will see this school, especially Confucius, they always look back. Okay, they see 500 years ago is wonderful. 1,000 years ago, even much better. Okay, that's kind of thinking. So that's a study the ancient text. So everything looking back. Okay. But of course, they have the forward-looking side. But since they have no foreign country to use as an example, so they always look back before past time as example. So that's their spirit, okay, of philosophy. So they give authority to their teaching. They honor Zhuangzi, Confucius, as the exalted teacher. So everything look back, and the teacher is better than student, and the past is better than today. So that's the concept running through. Their teaching is the highest truth. That which is admired must be tested. The glory of Yao and Sun, the prosperity of the dynasties of Yin and Zhou, okay, they all talk about old time, and the achievement of Zhuangzi, Confucius, are the result discovered by testing their teaching. Okay, so here, Sima Tan is comment on the Confucian scholars, not Sima Tan, the Treaty of Literature is comment about Confucius scholar probably during that time, right? They talk about they all see the old time is good. Okay, I think they have their own. The writer have their own political purpose, but that's not the subject we'll discuss it. But basically, that's how they are doing. And the second part, Feng Youlan didn't translate, but I translate here. However, the confused scholar, okay, they call it Huozi, okay, the confused one, misunderstood its subtle meaning. The vulgar scholars exalted it all the time, derailed from the foundation, and just used it to please the common people. The student follow them. Therefore, the classics are wrongly interpreted, and the study of Confucianism is decaying. This is the trouble caused by vulgar Confucianists. Okay, so that's the comment from the Treaty of Literature, which is written about the 1st century. Okay, so of course this comment we don't have to take very serious, but that's just show you how does people in the old time comment on Confucius. Okay, so that's a lot to cover for the Confucianism. So I will stop here to this one. Okay. If you have a question, comment.
Well, I'm sorry. My name is Tony. I'm joined you late. Beautiful group. I signed up for next week, and I was just surprised to see that you guys are going right now. Let me ask you for, excuse for the repetition. What's the Ru School again?
The reputation of the Ru School?
Yeah.
Tony, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, that's right. It just what is it?
Ru School, we call it the Confucianism. Okay.
Okay. And then the second line, the school delight in the study of, how do you pronounce that?
Oh, Liu Jing, the 6 classics, because they like to study the old text, the ancient text. Okay, this scholar, let's say Confucius, already 2,500 years ago. But these people, they study the text even older than that. Okay, so that's the essence trying to talk about.
Right. And again, excuse the interruption, but this is quite interesting. And what are the 6 classics?
6 classics we just covered, I think you miss it. So that's the 6 classics here.
Yeah, hold on. I'll get a screenshot. Thank you. 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, you go to our meetup page, and then I will show you later. Okay, the spreadsheet and all the presentation file is posted there, so you don't have to write down, you don't have to screenshot. So we have the Jen, Mark, and Kwang. Then we have to move on. So we have another 4 school to cover.
Yeah, looking at this kind of like survey of the schools, I'm kind of feeling that some of these quotations that we're just reviewing on page 22 are kind of they're kind of basically guaranteeing that the purpose of this is to guarantee the Confucian system. The Confucian system was the one that seemed to be favored by the kings the most. So it's natural, I think, to see sort of like this, these kind of like basic veneration, this type of veneration of the Confucian system. And of course, we know that there was a strong rejection of the Confucian system that seemed to come a bit late. I've already, like in the 19th century, a lot of it.
Oh, yeah, that's just like
so it's like, why did this Confucian system dominate the society almost through the entire course of what was the development of Western learning in the West? Because what was it, the 15th, 16th century that the Silk Road developed, and why didn't the Confucian system fall earlier? Why was it so ingrained into the fabric of the society?
I think that's a too big a question, so we need to hold this one when we talk about Confucian. Yeah, that's a big question, and I don't think if you ask 5 people, they have the 10 answer. I think that's good question. Anyway, good question to think about it. Okay, Mark, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, I have a question about the name Rujia a little bit. So you mentioned how. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you mentioned how it doesn't translate exactly as Confucianism, the way we use it in English, but Confucius is the dominant figure. I read somewhere that Ru Jia preceded Confucius by about 100 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that, could you elaborate a little bit on what exactly is the distinction of that tradition from
Okay,
Confucianism?
so let's put it this way. Okay, Rujia is Ru. This word is if you read the Confucius Analects, okay, Confucius already talk about Ru, this word. Okay, so he has no way. If you translate Ru as a Confucianism, and he's not going to talk about this guy small. He called some 小儒. Anyway, he has some common of different kind of Ru. Okay, if you translate this word as a Confucianism, they will become very strange, right? Confucius common somebody different kind of Confucianism. So so it's a tradition before Confucius, the person. So, Kwang.
Okay, just one small comment and a big comment that I will try to reduce to 3 minutes maximum. For the small comment, there is a relation between the Mencius and not directly with Zhu, which is Confucius' grandson, because Confucius' grandson died in 402 BCE, okay, and Mencius was born in 372 BCE. So there was a guy whose name is Shi Shao, Shishou, who was the student of Zhu and was the teacher of Mencius.
Okay,
that's for the small detail. For the big stuff, let's not forget that for Confucianism, a Ru, if you look at the character Ru, you have the symbol for a man and you have the symbol for rain. Okay, so let's not forget that Ru Jia existed 1,000 years before the birth of Confucius in 551 BCE under the Shang dynasty, meaning that those people were working for the royal house of Shang at the time, and how can I say it, has functions in making rain fall in case that there's no rain. So let's not forget that the Ru has a magical origins, and after that, and they were people capable to read at the same time, because let's not forget that the writing system began with the Shang dynasty, having begun in 1600 BCE. And after those more primitive or archaic origins, they evolved into a philosophical school having interest in history, in geography, in epistemology, in how to organize the state, and etc. Okay, so let's not forget that we have to distinguish at least 3 Confucianism. The Confucianism having more link with the religious origin of the Ru, the Confucianism having more link with the philosophical thinking and speculation having appeared later on, and third, the imperial Confucianism or the bureaucratic Confucianism, because let's not forget that Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty chose the Ru Jia in 136 BCE to be the state doctrine or the state ideology, okay, which is not a surprise because a ruler needs people who are capable to read, to write, to make calculations, to have idea on geography, history, to be capable to wield sword, to be good archers, to be good commander, and so on. Okay, so it is perfectly normal that among the 20s or so schools available in China in 136 BCE, that the ruler would have chosen the Ru rather than the Taoism that would invite you to retire your life in the countryside. It would not be very useful for a ruler. And why Confucianism lasted till 1912, meaning the year of the collapse of the Chinese Empire. So Confucianism lasted at the state doctrine between 136 BCE and 1912, meaning practically for 2 millennia. It is because Confucianism is at the center of the Chinese cultural life. Confucianism played exactly the same role that Christianity played for the West. So it was not only a religion, it was also a philosophy, it was also a school for thinking. So if you remove Confucianism during those 2 millennia, it is exactly the same that if you remove Christianity from the West between year 0 and years 2000. And it's almost the same time period.
Okay, thank you, Kwang. And I think Kwang already answered James' question. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to, we have a 4 more school to cover. Okay, so I hope it's not information overload, but the purpose is just overload you, so you will have interest to continue for the rest of school. And one of the purpose is you may agree or disagree on all this comment, all this philosophy. But one thing I want everyone to think about is Chinese philosophy is, don't take Chinese philosophy as a whole, because there's many, many components. Okay, don't just, that's it, that's many. That's why I call this meetup Asian philosophies close. Okay, because I don't want you think about that's just what, because there's many things. And we may disagree, but that's fine. Okay. The third school, Mohism. The third school is that of Mojia, okay, the Moist school. This school had a close-knit organization and a strict discipline under the leadership of Mozi, okay, or sometimes we call Modi, that's his name. Its followers actually call themselves Mohism, okay, so that's the only school they know their school name, okay. Thus, the title of this school is not an invention of the Sima Tan, okay, the record of the Greek history, because he invented other 6 schools, but not this school, as were some others, okay? So that's the Sima Tan's comment on the Shi Ji, which is records of the great grand historian. The Mohism teach frugality, which is difficult to follow. For this reason, it is not popular. But the teaching of strengthening the foundation and reducing the expenditure cannot be abolished. Okay, so Sima Tan talking about why Mohism is not popular. Okay, during the past time, it was popular in the old time, but in the 100 BCE, okay, at the Han Dynasty, is not that popular. Okay, the Book of Han, Treatise of Literature, has more detailed description. And I think this description is interesting. Okay, so this talking about, I probably should go this way first. Okay, so I'm not going to detail on this one because Feng Youlan spent 2 chapters, okay, 2 chapters talking about Mohism, okay, because it's interesting and important and very different from other schools. In general, we summarize, okay, they have the 10 teachings, okay, talking about the elevating the worthy. Most important is universal love, okay, kind of, and I prefer translate as impartial love. Okay, talk about frugality in funeral. Talk about the ghost. They believe ghost, but they against the fatism. Okay, Feng Youlan will have the discussion on this one. Okay, they against the entertainment. Okay, and they are opposite to Confucius. That's the book. Okay, you can see 7 volumes. It's a lot. And if you kind of quickly look at this book, you will find out the interesting, right? At the first part, self-cultivation, necessarily talking about the virtue, talking about expenditure, looked at as a philosophical teaching. But to the end, talking about defense, okay, talking about the tunneling, okay, so becomes like a military thing. Some part here talk about major and minor illustration, okay, they talk about canon, all this part is logic, okay. So this one is very rich, profound text here. And then Mohism is not just like one person. There's a group of students that's for 100 years. Okay, so of course, there's no way the person write all this one. That must be his disciple of disciples, the follower, right? All this book. So, James, if you have a question, you
Yeah.
can ask it.
Yeah, how do the Chinese define ghosts? Are they dead people or are they heavenly spirits?
In general, we call the dead people. Okay, so that's the something dead people, especially in the in this Mohism teaching. Okay, when he meant ghost, he meant the people died. Okay, okay. So
Thank you.
So let me read the comment from Book of Han, Treaty of Literature. Okay, so here for your line cover on the 33, page 33 and the 34. Okay. And this part, basics, that's why I want to talk about the teaching first, then go to this text. Because I think this piece of text is interesting because the author explained why Mohist has this kind of teaching. So he said that those Mohism had their own origin in the guardian of the temple. So the temple was built with plain wood, rafter, and thatched roof. Hence, their teaching emphasized frugality. The temple was placed where the 3 elder and the 5 experienced men were honored. Hence, their teaching emphasized on universal love. The ceremony of selecting civil officer and the military exercise were also held in temple. We talk about during the old time. Hence, their teaching emphasized the preferment of virtue and ability. Chinese called Shangxian. Okay. The temple was placed for sacrifice to ancestors and reverence to fathers. Hence, their teaching to honor the spirit. Okay, so Boyolan translated as spirit, but that's back to James' question. Okay, I translate as ghost. They accepted the traditional teaching of following 4 seasons and one's conduct. Hence, their teaching was against the fatalism. They accepted the traditional teaching of exhibiting filial piety through the world. Hence, they taught the doctrine of agreeing with superior. Here lies the strong point of this school. Okay, so that's one point. And the second part, Feng Youlan didn't include, and I just try to translate. Okay, so then he talked about the book, the Treaty of Literature, talk about the problematic practitioners take advantage of frugality and ignore the rituals. Okay, I think you can imagine, right? If you try to save money and you don't do well on rituals. Okay. Sometimes they practice universal love and don't distinct their family from others. So sounds this criticism is based on Confucius teaching, right? Against ritual. Confucius teaching is you love your father, family first, then love your member and your neighbor, then love your village people, then love then love foreigner. Okay, so basically it's degrading. Okay, you don't love everybody the same. Okay, so that's the typical criticize from Confucian teaching. So I end up here for the Mohism. Right. So I stop for if you have a question. Okay, Kwang, please.
Just a start, just something very brief. In Chinese, there is a distinction between ghost as Gui. Gui means the ghost from dead persons, okay, and Shen is more in the sense of spirit, of heavenly spirit, Shen, and Gui is from the ghost from the earth, if you want, or the technical word, Ktonian people, ghost, Chthonian. I'm not capable to pronounce that word.
Oh, Huang. Okay. Yeah, that's another big big thing we can talk. Steve, please.
In what sense is it universal love? Just meaning love everybody in the world, love thine enemy.
No,
Like,
no,
what,
don't love thy enemy.
yeah, well, yeah. That's so. What is the nature of,
Okay, okay,
what is the level of universality in the universal love? I guess.
okay. So we will have a more cover on the chapter. I don't know which chapter, chapter 10 or something. Chapter 5. Okay, chapter 5. Okay. Chapter 4 talking about Confucianism. Chapter 5, okay, talking about Mohism. And then the formula line have the title called The First Opponent of Confucianism. Okay, so that's Mohism. So the big thing is, two things is direct object to Confucius. One is frugality in funeral. In Confucius, funeral is important, right? You need a ritual, it's important. You don't waste money, but you don't be frugal about the future, the funeral. Impartial love or universal love, I don't see either one have a good translation. 兼爱, okay. 兼 means you love everybody. That's the meaning. Okay. So you love your countrymen, you love them. You don't separate, okay, your own people and other people. As long as people you love. Okay. I think that's the essence here. We have a okay, so we will have a section, actually 2 sections talking about Mohism because it's important. First part talking about the philosophy. Second part talking about his logic. Okay, you may ask why logic is important. Oh, we save for later. Kwang and Mark.
Oh, sorry for the delay. I will be very brief, okay? In Confucianism, there is a hierarchy that you should be, that you have a duty towards your family and so on, because Confucianism is very related to the feudal structures of the great families at the time. Mozi or Moti was of a humble background, but he was very brilliant, okay? He was capable to organize some of the peasants and to give them practical tools to resist the aristocrats at the time. So the Jian Ai was, I would say, solidarity that is given to everyone rather than a solidarity which is more defined by the links of noble families, as in with the Rujia, because a lot of the Rujia people came from the cadet branches of the nobility. And what is special with Moti or Mozi, Master Mo, that he was from a peasant origin, but a brilliant one who was capable to become a leader, giving a kind of structure and organization for some of the peasants at the time to resist against the feudal oppression precisely. I stop here.
Thank you, Kwang. Well said. Mark, please.
Thanks, Juan. That was really interesting. Oh gosh, I just forgot. Jason, what were you talking about just before you went to questions?
Excuse me?
You're talking just before you went to questions. What was the point that you made? Because my question was directly about that.
The impartial love?
About,
logic?
I can't remember. I'm sorry. If I think of it, I'll.
Okay. So let's move to the 4th school. School of name. I think last year, June, I make a special section talking about school of name because personally, I think this school has been undervalued in the history, especially in the Chinese tradition, because they are logician and then they have their own political, moral purpose, okay, to argue, okay. Okay, so just quick, okay. School of name, Chinese called Mingjia. The 4th school is Mingjia or school of names. The followers of this school were interested in the distinction between and the relation of what they call names and actualities. Page 31. Okay, so from the 史记 records of the grand historian, the school of names make people frugal. Okay, that's my translation. 简而善思真. Okay, I try to do my best to translate. Basically, talk about they are overcautious about language. Okay, that's Sima Tan's point of view. Okay, unable to see the truth. I have to say I disagree this description because they elaborate a lot and they try to see the truth. But look like the Sima Tan think they are cautious on speaking and the laws what is truth. Okay, so depend on how you look at it. But the rectifying the name and the actuality is still an important study. So I think the third method is say you lost the truth or you pursuing the truth. But one thing for sure is they focus on name and actuality. I will talk this one later. Okay. Book of Han. Okay, the Treaty of Literatures. Talk on page 33. Those of the school of names have their origin in the ministry of ceremonies. For the ancient, where title and the position differs, the ceremonies according to them were also different. Confucius has said the name is incorrect. Speech will not follow its natural sequence. If speech does not follow its natural sequence, nothing can be established. Here lies their strong point of the school. Okay, so I like this comment. Okay, basically, he was that the Treaty of Literature kind of look at this school in a positive way, right? They talk about that they follow the tradition of ceremony because they have the title and they have a position. So they try to do the title and the position correctly. Okay, but the radical one, okay, they talk about they call it the 井者, okay, just make the language clear. So I think that his comment is they just dealing with language and the laws, the essence. Okay. So Jim, you have a question? If you have a question. If you have a comment, that's safe for the data. But you know, if you
okay, no, it's both. I have a question. It contains a question. I just was wondering if this is a this reminds me just a little bit of semanticism, and I'm just wondering which of course is big in philosophy right around the turn of the 20th century. You know, a little before the 20th century, I think it came up.
Let me respond this one first because the reason I have the presentation last June because I see this one is very modern, okay, modern Western philosophy, okay, and then probably I should jump ahead here. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, talk Feuerland's book talking about the they deal with names and actuality. So good example is Confucius is a teacher. And in our philosophy, Western philosophy, we may say we always use example. Socrates is a philosophy. So Socrates is an actual person. Confucius is an actual person. That's actuality. Then teacher, philosopher is a name. So we may call universal. So the question, big question, million years, 1,000 years question is, what's universal? Is that real? Then we call them realist. Okay, if it's a form that Plato would call universal, is a form. If it's just name, we call nominalist. Okay, so that's the argue, keep going on and on. So that's quickly.
Yeah, so you're sort of comparing this to Western metaphysics, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just thinking, is there a book in Chinese that relates to this school?
No. I should not say this quick, but it sounds like I read all Chinese book. But in general, people criticize them, say they just lip service and they just argue for the sake of arguing. Okay.
So real
usually
quick,
give them a back-
which concept of thing is this closest to in the Western ideas that you listed?
Well, I will say, Zhang, wait, you are next one. Okay. You mean which school is related in the Western? You can say Wittgenstein.
Which concept of actuality is the school of names closest to?
Well, I will say if you read the Middle Ages, okay, there's a lot of argument, right, between what is universal, okay. For example, one thing I like the Nicholas de Cusa, okay, he argued the universal is real, okay. So it's real because what in your brain you think that's a real thing. So we should not go to too much detail, but that's the perennial argument about what's actual, what's name.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
I'm a logician and a retired philosophy professor. And so reading about the school of names is very interesting. One of the features they did was they wanted to get your names right. And the way they did that was they tried to give everything its right name. And what is its right name? Well, one of the differences between Western philosophy and Chinese philosophy is you build into the definition of the right name value terms. You want to organize your life so you pursue the right kind of apple and the right kind of life and so forth. So you build value terms into it. And I think the school of names was criticized because they said that everything has its correct one name. Everything has its right name. And one of the problems with that is that when you give every dog its right name, what do you do with the word dog? It's a class term. So one of the criticisms that came later was that they didn't, their semantic theory didn't embrace generalities very well. So that's all I had to say.
Well, thank you. Just put on hold for a while. Let me quickly finish this one. Then we talk about this because we also have a whole chapter discussing this one. And then when we talk about name, you will see some people say they are doing the same thing as the Confucius. Some people say they are doing different thing than the Confucius. Okay, because Confucius definitely name is important, but does this school agree with the Confucius or disagree with the Confucius? We don't know. That's you can discuss more. But here today, I'm not going to the detail of all the philosophy, but I just want to introduce two great persons in this school, right? One is Hui Shi. He is in the Zhuangzi's time, and he probably doesn't have a book left. But what we know about Hui Shi is based on the Zhuangzi, the book. So famous in the argument, debate, the fish. If you are not fish, if you are not fish, how do you know fish is happy? Or if you are not me, how do you know I don't know fish is happy? This kind of happy fish argument is Hui Shi and the Zhuangzi. And you can see Hui Shi, this kind, if I list a few, they say the 10-point argument, you will see will remind you about the Zeno's paradoxes, right? You talk about the moving, why is not moving, if I scoop half of water from the bucket, the bucket water is never end. So all this kind of question they are asking. So that's Hui Shi. Gong-Sun is another one. He lived much later time. Okay. So he has a book left, and we don't have to go detail because we have a special chapter talking about this. And he has a book left, a short book, and the very famous is about why horse is not horse. Okay, so please, we don't discuss why horse is not horse today, but when we in chapter 8 we talk about school of names, we will have enough time to talk about why horse is not horse. So I will finish this school here, then we go to legalism. So we take a quick comment or question from Jen and James and Guang.
I already had my hand up, but that sounds to me that's a book, right? The Gong-Sun Ji.
Okay, good. Kwang and Mark, I have to move on.
Okay. You have two encyclopedia called the Lu Shi Chun Chu, The Spring and Autumn of Mr. Lu, and the Huai Nan Zi, which is an encyclopedia having been written by a team sponsored by a prince of the Han Dynasty, having references to the Mingjia, but it's only some paragraph and chapters. It's not a book devoted to the Mingjia. And a short comment. For the Confucianists believe in the reality of the upper trigram, okay, meaning they have metaphysical considerations, and most of the time they consider the kind of play like is the white horse a horse as a nominalist play and not very serious. So I just want to say that there's a clash between the orthodox line of Confucianism and the Mingjia because it was considered more a school with a more sophistic attitude, let's say. If I have to give a short and quick equivalent, which is not comprehensive, of the Mingjia from the Confucianist perspective with the West, it would be like Plato considering the Sophists.
Well, I just have to say I disagree, but we can disagree. But that's a good one way of comparison. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, Kwang. Mark, please.
Hey, thanks, Jason. I remember my earlier question. It actually went back to Mozi. Fang Yonglun called Mozi the first opponent of Confucianism in this book. I'm wondering why not Zhuangzi or even Lao Tzu as the first opponent? Why do you think he labeled Mozi as the opponent?
Okay, so I'm not going to answer this one in detail because why he call it the opposite, because it's about the richer, about the richer and about the love. Okay, so that's the reason Feng Youlan calls it the first opponent of Confucianism. Zhuangzi is not all target against Confucius. He has many plays against Confucius, but it's not all toward this one. That's the only thing I would like to say now. And then I think we should move on. We have two more schools. And then legalism. I think next week, Kwang will cover a lot about legalism, right? Am I right? Because the Qin dynasty, I see your presentation. That's not a legalism school, right? So,
yeah. Well, I would not go into the philosophical detail. I just want to mention that they would play a major instrumental role in the creation of the first Chinese empire.
Yes. Okay. But today I also not go to the detail about the historian because Feng Youlan also have the detail chapter talking about legalism, which is important till today. So the fifth school is the Fajia or legalist school. The Chinese word means pattern or law. I put a comment here I call method, instrument, because Fa also means method. Okay? So they focus on method. Okay. The school derived from a group of statesmen who maintained that the good government must be one based on the fixed code of law instead of moral institution, which the literati stress for government, which talk about Confucianism. So again, it's opposite than Confucius. Instead of moral political, he talk about the legal. Okay, talk about the method. So from the records of the great historian, okay, those legalist schools are strict without mercy, but the unchanging demarcation of the responsibilities of the rulers and the ministers, the superior and the subordinates are important. Okay, so they make things very clear. Treaty of literature. Those of the legalist school had their origin in the Minister of Justice. They emphasize strictness in rewarding and the punishment in order to support a system of correct conduct. Okay, so if you are the first time learning Chinese philosophy, only thing you need to know about legalism is reward and the punishment. That's their so-called two handles. And then, of course, Treaty of the Literatures, okay, has a comment about the radical legalism, have no interest in education and avoid practicing ren and love or caring. They focus on using laws to achieve their goals and sometimes damage the close one without mercy. Here, I'm not going to do detail, but basics, if you talk about legalism, and probably you will hear this name next week, okay, they have the 3 schools roughly, okay, 士, okay, the 圣道, okay, it's about 士, 生不害, talking about 术, technique, method, 商鞅, talk about 法, talk about regulation, talk about law. And then Han Fei Zi is the person. Remember, he is the student of Confucian scholar Xun Zi. He become legalism. Usually, legalism doesn't have a lot of writing, okay, because they are statesmen. They do work, okay. Only one is Han Fei Zi because he's stuttered, okay. He cannot speak well, so he wrote a lot. So we got a book about this, and we will have a chapter deal with him. Okay, so we finished the 5 school, then we can go to the 6th school. Steve, please.
By all means, tell me to just shut up and come back when you talk.
No. If you have a question,
no. Well, but I'll ask the question. You can decide how deep to go in it. I just want to see if I'm understanding. So, from earlier Confucianism, one of the in the Confucius chain was man is good, and I kind of understand part of Confucianism as that man is good. There's virtue. If the leaders are virtuous, they will lead in a good way. And then I think in that you said legalism was descended of one branch of that tree that said man is bad. And so am I correct to infer from that they think laws are necessary because man is bad, so you got to put laws around him to make him be good?
Yeah, okay, let me make it quick explanation.
Certainly.
Easy way on this one. Okay, Mencius talk about man, human nature is good. They all good, sophisticated enough to know there's a good guy, they have a bad guy. Okay, but they talk about nature, human nature. Mencius say human nature is good, so we should grow, keep the good thing. Okay. Xun Zi talk about human nature is bad, but we still consider him as a Confucian scholar because if you are bad, that's fine. I teach you, go to school, learn, study the ancient text. You will become a good person eventually, right? So you will see the learned people are always good. The unlearned people are not good. But roughly, you can say this way. Okay. So his student take it to more extreme, right? Well, you don't have to learn. I just use law to control you. Okay. So he's taking totally from the government point of view, not from the individual point of view. So that's just a quick, if you want to go to more complex, you will find out. Even
that was good. I got that. Thank you.
Legalism, okay, the legalism, they learn also from Taoism. Then you were a little bit shocked, but I'm not going to discuss this part today. But look, guys, thank you, everyone. I have a lot to pack to talk, but I think I will finish on the Taoism, and then the rest probably not that important. And then we will talk about this, in the later time. Okay, Taoism, of course, we have. As you know, every Tuesday we are reading Tao Te Ching translation, 81 chapter. We translate 2 chapters every week, so no way to go. But so the 6th school is Tao Te Jia. Okay, Sima Tan call it Tao Te Jia, but later we call it Tao Jia, become Taoism, the school of way and the power. So what's Tao? Okay, that's a big question. The follower of this school centered their metaphysics and the social philosophy around the concept of non-being, which is Wu or Wu Wei, which is the Tao of the way, and its concentration in the individuals as the nature virtue of man, which is De, stands as virtue, but in Feng Youlan's opinion, better rendered as a power that inherent in the individual things. This group called by Sima Tan, okay, the Tao Te Jia, okay, Tao Te school, was later known simply as Tao Jia, as Taoism. And this referred to Western literature as a Taoism school. I think most of people familiar with this name. And he want to make clear is, and a lot of people I want to everybody understand. When we talk about Taoism, we talk about the philosophical Taoism. We are not talking about Taoist religion, which has been practiced even today. Record of great historian, that's from Sima Tan. Okay, let's read his text. He said the Taoist teaching make people's mind concentrated, action unnoticeable, and desire satisfied. Technically, it follows the trend of yin and the yang, take the benefit of Confucianism and the Mohism, combine the essence of the school of name and the legalism. It moves with time, adapt to the changes, accommodate to the custom, and fit to all situations. It is easy to practice. The work, I think the work is few, but the achievement is great, right? So you can see the tone. Okay, Sima Tan kind of like praise Taoism a lot. Okay, so that's personal feeling. I find out Sima Tan is the father of Sima Qian. Sima Qian is more on the Confucianism, and his father is much more Taoism. So based on this comment, you can see he complained. He talked about the Confucianism. They work hard but achieve hardly. But in Taoism, say the work is a few, but the achievement is great. So that's different opinion on that. So Book of Han, 200 years later, Treaty of Literature. Those of Taoist school had their origin in official historians. So they are origin from the historian. Why? Because you know the historical change. Remember the old teaching about Yi Jing book. You know the change, so you know what's unchanged. Okay. So study the historian example of success and the failure, preservation, destruction, calamity, and the prosperity. From ancient to recent time, they learned how to hold what is essential and to grasp the fundamental. They guarded themselves with purity and emptiness, and with humbleness and meekness maintain themselves. Okay, so that's the good part. And then, of course, Book of Literature also talk about the bad things. Okay, but the radical Taoists want to get rid of the ritual, Ren and the Yi, which is Confucian morality. They said purity and emptiness alone are good enough to govern the state. So that's the comment about this one. Few people we need to, well, only two people we need to know. Okay, Lao Tzu, okay, the author of the Tao Te Ching, okay, which consider the ancient text, even, well, we probably should say it's older than Confucius Analects. Okay, so you will see different spelling because sometimes spell Lao Tzu, and then sometimes spell Lao Tzu, sometimes spell Li because his last name is Li, and he has a book called Tao Te Ching. Okay, only has 81 chapter and 5,000 characters. Very, very brief text, but at least I spend a lot of time translate this one because it's very difficult to translate. Okay. So famous writing about chapter 1 talk about, I think most people can recite the first verse, right? The Tao can be taught or can be explained. It's not eternal Tao. The name can be named. It's not the eternal name. Okay, of course, we can have a lot of discussion on this one because people may disagree on this, agree on this. Okay, but I just use as a sample. Chapter 48, practice Wu Wei, which is non-doing, but nothing is left undone. Okay, so that's also famous about their philosophy, Wu Wei or non-doing. It being important teaching. Zhuangzi, okay, people with this group long enough, you must know. Last year, I spent a good last year to read technical word by word, every single word. I will say I didn't miss any single word, okay, in Chinese and also in Feng Youlan's English translation about Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi has a 33 chapter, and we consider inner chapter 1 to 7 as Zhuangzi's personal philosophy. So I think we go through about at least more than 10 sections talking about his philosophy. And I think it's great. It's one of my favorite reading, okay, literaturely and philosophically. And I think that's my personal favorite. Okay, let's put it this way. So that's a School of Zhuang. Before I close up it, I think I'm going to skip the chapter, the page there. They have the formal school to talk about, which is not recognized by Sima Tan, but being recognized by the Treaty of Literature. Okay, so diplomatist and eclectic school and agricultural school, school of storytellers. Okay, so which we probably not going too much on that. And I like to show this one. I list all the person, okay, through the time. Okay, you can Lao Tzu just based on Wikipedia, who is the oldest, who is the youngest. So you can see from Lao Tzu, Confucius, Mozi, Mencius. Hui Shi is the school of name. Then Zhang Su Qin, okay, the school of diplomacy. Okay, so that's, I didn't go detail. The Zhuangzi, the Gong-Sun, okay, which is the school of name. Xun Zi, okay, the later Confucian school, talking about human nature is bad. Then his student, Han Fei Zi, the legal school. So, okay, I finished. So this chart is just give you an idea. Okay, 6 school: Confucian school, legal school, Taoism school, Mohism, and school of name, Yin Yang school. They all have influence, right? It happened about 500 to 300 BCE, and then 1500 later, 1500 years later, they have the Neo-Confucianism. Legalism, you move on, you know, they merge or come up with Xun Zi, become Han Fei, and then Taoism, they have the Lao Tzu, later on have the Zhuangzi. Then about 200, the 2nd century, 3rd century, they have the movement called Neo-Taoism movement. And I think Feng Youlan put the chapter 19 and chapter 20 on the Neo-Taoism. Okay, then Mozi basically stopped. And the school of name, okay, not continue, but basically, I like to talk about this, and Feng Youlan also like to talk this one because I think that's important, but you know, being ignored for most of the Chinese scholars. Yin Yang school become important in the Han Dynasty. I believe we will talk about the history of Han. Okay, the thinking of the maintain of heaven. All this kind of thinking, you know, is related to the Yin Yang school. Okay, and even the later Neo-Confucian school, and also has some association with Yin Yang school. So I think a little bit rushed, but you know, I think we finished this one, and I have to thank you everyone. And I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, a lot of people have a lot of opinion, and a lot of disagreement. And I thank you everyone hold your opinion, and then join us in the later chapter, and we can have a thorough discussion on everything. So the floor is open, and if a question, and again, I don't want to go over 50 minutes. So, please comment or question, and I will have a question go first if you do have a question. Okay. I just go through this from James from Kwang. Okay.
You know, just real quick, yeah, that was brilliant presentation. You know, much better than just reading the chapter. I really enjoyed it. And so this, I was wondering, the yin yang is mentioned. I believe it's mentioned by Lao Tzu the book of the Tao or whatever, and I think it even appears in the Analects. So if I remember right, so it does seem to go back quite a bit, and it seems to be a factor in Lao Tzu's thinking.
Thank you. Okay, so that's my opinion. Okay, I see yin yang, this concept is deep in the old philosopher, even today's Chinese mind. So if it's so deep, it sits in your background, you probably don't talk about this, right? You just assume it, just like a fish in the water. Fish is not going to talk about water because that's there. So I think that in Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching only talk about yin yang once. Okay, so can I say it's not important? Well, you cannot say that because that's running on his background. He only mentioned once. Okay. Confucius, I don't remember, but probably talk about only once or something. Yeah, very few. But doesn't mean they have no concept about yin yang. They do. Okay, but they just don't have. You don't need to talk about this because it's everyday life. So let's put it this way. Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
Kwang, please.
Okay, just a 30-second about the school of yin yang. Of course, that yin yang is spontaneously associated with Lao Tzu, but what we perceive as the systematic understanding of yin yang is associated with a guy called Zhou, Z-O-U, which is his family name. He was born in 305 and he died in 240 BCE. And he was a famous scholar of the Jixia Academy of Jixia Xuegong of the Qin Principality. And from there, he died 20 years before the creation of the First Empire. So he had a big impact during the first half of the Han Empire. That being said, my first comment was more about the transition from Sima Tan, who was the father, was more Taoist, and Sima Qian, the son, was more Confucianist. Let's not forget, once again, because that's a famous date in Chinese history, 136 BCE, Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty chose Confucianism as state ideology. And let's not forget that the first three generations of the Han Empire, which started in 206, focused on Taoism as the state ideology for political governance, and that the mentality of the Taoists were much more, let's say, laissez-faire than the Confucianists. Okay, and it was the patron of that school was Empress Dowager Tao, who was the grandmother of Emperor Wu. And because of different reasons that I don't want to go into the detail, Emperor Wu decided to choose Confucianism in 136 BCE. And from there, the Chinese was accompanied by the different variety of Confucianism till 1912, so 2 millennia later. And I would say that Confucianism still has an importance in the Chinese life. And I finish in 10 seconds. Let's not forget, I don't want to go into a long argumentation. I just want to make a statement. Just not forget that Confucianism and Taoism are twin brothers. Okay, so they are not so different. They appear to be different, but they are not so different. I stop here.
Yeah, I will some reservation on the last twin brother part, but rest part, Kwang, I'm 100% agree with you about the Han things. But twin brother, I'm not saying I disagree, but that's an interesting subject. We can argue. Mark, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. On the table that you showed, where you showed the evolution of the 6 different schools, you had a name. I think it was Zhuang as a precursor.
Yeah,
to,
Guanzhong.
Is that's the balancing the heavy and the light?
Hold on, Mark, you talk about the legalism?
Well, I'm talking about Zhuang specifically because I think
you talk about this one.
Of the same guy.
Yeah, here. Okay, here I put the Guanzhong here. Okay, that's a Guanzhong. Right. Okay, very, very old statesman. Okay, so well, that's another story. Long story we can talk. Okay, but basically, you can consider Guangzhong as the first legalism. Well, arguably, but he run the let's say if you run the government well, efficient, you are legalism. If you make this definition, Guangzhong is one. Okay.
Okay, cool. I just had a comment about him specifically. Bertrand Russell, in the beginning of his History of Western Philosophy, says that philosophy was invented by the Greeks, and he lists Thales as the first philosopher. So I was very skeptical when I read that. So I did a search for ancient philosophers, and Guangzhong is well dated, and he predates Thales. And there's a number of Indian philosophers who are not as well dated, but they also seem to predate Thales. So I just thought that was interesting.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so let's say. Okay, I will assume that thank you everyone, and I think we do it on the timing wise perfect, and then I hope everyone get what you want, and then thank you again. Everyone hold your question and hold your opinion, and then that's safe for the future section. We can have a detailed discussion on that. And thank you again. And next week, Kwang, will be your turn to talk about political and history. Okay. Thank you. See you next week. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.